Ladies and gents, what's happening? What's goody? What's goody? What is going on, my friends? Look, it is yours truly, Arrington Gavin, here for bringing you another great episode of the Arrington Gavin podcast. I'm so happy that you are here and that you've taken the time out your Friday. Again, happy Friday, y'all, too. You took the time out your Friday to tune into another great episode of the Arrington Gavin podcast presented by Rugged Evolution Beard Care. Rugged is the new smooth. Again, I'm also dropping new episodes of the Arrington Gavin podcast every Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Okay, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time via podcast. So wherever you get your podcasts on, whether if it's Apple, iHeart, anywhere, look, tune in to the Arrington Gavin podcast. Also, at 1 p.m. via YouTube, our YouTube channel, our Smooth Club Media, as well as our Smooth Club podcast Facebook page and on X, formerly known as Twitter, but we always gotta say X. I hate the way they changed that to just a letter. It kind of bugs me. But anyway, I'm not gonna go on from that. But guys, look, I'm excited because on today's show, I have my good friend, Mr. Marcus Calabrese, who is a consultant and project manager, and really just a all-around PR guru when it comes to politics. He represents everybody from politicians, entrepreneurs, business owners, you name them, entertainers. The list goes on and on. He's a sharp guy, but I'm very excited to have him on because I want to get the really the mindset of a consultant in politics, because I'm gonna, sooner or later I'm gonna have some candidates, former officials, and even current officials. Our very first guest we had to kick it off, my good friend Miss Melissa Lukeson, who's a former Democratic chairman for the city of Virginia Beach. She's a pistol. She doesn't hold back any punches. But again, I'm trying to give you guys some great insight and intel, because at the end of the day, I know how important it is to understand politics that not just going on in your local state, right in your backyard, but of course on a state level. And we all know, on the national level, because we watch the news here and there. Yeah, so I'm very excited about that. Oh man, what else do I want to talk to you guys before I bring on my good friend Marcus? What else, man? Oh, this is really random, this sidebar, but have y'all checked out that new show, the Bachelor, the Golden Bachelor? So I'm gonna just be honest, I always hated The Bachelor, so I never like any dating shows, and I've never watched The Bachelor. But my wife started tuning in to one of the shows, and then a commercial went by, and it said, "Hey, look, we got our first ever Golden Bachelor." And I'm like, "Golden Bachelor? What the hell is that?" And it's a guy that is the new Bachelor. He's 71 years old, right? He's 71 years old. So he has all these, ladies ranging from like 60 to 75. And I mean, they all like, "Ooh, I'm ready to find love." And I ain't gonna lie, they looking bad now for 75. I'll be honest. I was like, wait a minute. I forgot I was married for a second. I'm like, but hey, they age good. They age good, I guess. They season. There we go. They season. But but yeah, I tuned into that show, man. It wasn't that bad. So I'm hoping it's not going to be one of those like, ratchet dating shows where it's going to have some beef and some tension with some of the candidates and all that stuff. The girls that's in it to try and win the heart of this guy. So I hope it's not like the regular dating shows. But hey, tune in. It's on ABC. And I don't know what time and all that stuff. Plus, they didn't pay me to present all that stuff. But check it out. It's called The Golden Bachelor. It's pretty interesting. Just had to put that out there because I just started watching. I'm like, it's not that bad. But anyway, back to the theme of the show that we're doing. Again, talking with multiple experts, a lot of close friends of mine that work in the field of politics. I'm excited on this episode to have my good friend, Mr. Marcus Calabrese. He's a consultant, project manager, founder of Image Capital Group. And he's a former candidate. He's run for a couple positions as well. So I'm telling you, this man knows his stuff. So I'm excited to have him on. Without further ado, I'm gonna bring on my good friend, Mr. Marcus Calabrese. Marcus, how you doing, my friend?
All right, how are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing great. Man. Look, I know you're a busy man, so I truly appreciate you taking the time out your schedule to come here on the pod. We're still in the beginning stages of the pod, but I'm very excited to have you on. So again, I just truly thank you.
No, thank you.
So look, Marcus, for the viewers and the listeners who are tuning into this, can you tell us a little small, just background about yourself for, just for our listeners about you?
Sure. I've worked on several political campaigns. Usually, my clients range from small businesses, whether it's a bakery or could be a pageant queen, an athlete I represented, an Olympic athlete, a NASCAR family, um, two governors, one second tier presidential campaign. The majority of my media is usually focused on local media markets, and that could, when
Mm-hmm.
I say local media markets, local for the client. So,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I've got national coverage before, for clients, but usually it'll be the local ABC, NBC, and CBS affiliate, whether it's Houston,
Mm-hmm.
Memphis, Greensboro, Wilmington, Los Angeles, stuff like that. Usually I target those local media markets, whatever the client needs. But pretty much, whether it's TV, radio, print, online, social media, or sometimes getting clients out of the media. One of the clients most people recognize is Legacy Lounge. I
Mm-hmm.
handled the PR for Legacy when Norfolk, the city of Norfolk, and Legacy Lounge were butting heads,
Mm-hmm.
which that's an interesting case in and of itself. But my clients have, like I said, range from nightclubs, bakeries, governors, presidential candidates, athletes, all across the board.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Where was this always a dream of yours to pursue when it comes to representing, helping, basically you're helping individuals succeed in their journey of whether it's entrepreneurship and what they're, what pretty much they're dreaming. And it's very important because as a business owner myself, an entrepreneur, I always love to encourage some little, helpful tips to our listeners, to our viewers, because I always say, look, we're all entrepreneurs, man. It's just a matter on us taking the gamble of investing, on ourselves. How how did all that come about for you? Was this like, was this something that you always wanted to pursue?
I got fired a lot.
Oh, never
um,
mind. Okay.
no, but as a kid, I grew up overseas in Saudi Arabia,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember seeing the first time I had ever seen a book about Dr. King. I had no idea who he was.
Mm-hmm.
I was in third grade, and which I don't know if that's a good thing. That third grade, I didn't know anything about Dr. King yet, and so I saw this
It's
book.
no judging over here. No judging behind the scenes.
So I saw this book on the floor, and I saw a picture of Dr. King, and I picked it up, and literally right away I got enthralled and
Mm-hmm.
fascinated with Dr. King. That led me to learn about Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, and of course, learning about Dr. King led to the civil rights, and that led to learning about JFK and Lyndon Baines Johnson and stuff like that. So that got me interested in politics, but it wasn't necessarily the politics, it was the impact and
Mm-hmm.
righting wrongs. And when I got back from overseas and actually stayed here in Virginia, I got involved with my aunt got me involved with political campaigns,
Okay.
and I thought it was a way to fix things, which sometimes it is, but sometimes it's the
Mm-hmm.
problem.
Mm-hmm.
But campaigning and promotional marketing and public relations go hand in hand, and you can
Absolutely.
use them, to do some good. So one thing led to another.
Okay.
If you can say that, but no, it wasn't always a dream to do it, but in a way, righting wrongs and helping people was. I just didn't realize it would take shape in that form.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, look, man, so it is election season. It's happening, of course, in our backyard here in Hampton Roads. We have whether if it's we have delegate races, we have Senate races going on right now. And then of course on a national level, we already see presidential candidates that wants to run for office, things like that. Being a person that's, you've worked for both sides. You vote for am I correct? You work for
Yeah.
Democratic side and Republican side. Uh, how do you what goes in the mind of, okay, boom, I'm representing you. This is what this is what you got to do in order to, hey, it's gonna help you out. It's gonna help your campaign. What are some of your I don't know tips? I'm trying to look for the right word to say. some of the concepts that you bring upon for your clients, do you change it up depending on political party that they're involved in, or do you kind of keep the same concept for every candidate regardless of political party?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Politics, in large part, I learned from a political. I mean, I never asked him to be. He never assigned himself the role of mentor, but I learned a lot from Brian Kerwin, and
Okay.
Brian said quite a few times that politics is patterns, and he's right. And what I learned is as long as you have those patterns in politics, which you do, whether it's local, city, state, whatever, federal. My goal is to, yes, see the pattern, and I don't really want to change your pattern too much. It's like a wheel. I just want to throw it off just a little bit. You know what I mean? And that's what I look at. I just want to throw you off just a little bit so you don't know that you've been thrown off. But it's like if you're riding a bike, or you see it in cartoons all the time, or like a train or a bus. One of the cartoon characters, a road runner, might do something to the tire, and all of a sudden, you either go off the side of the road, or you've got to use a different train track or whatever. You're not where you want to be. That's what I want. So that's I look at how to throw things off, but I also look at ways to attract swing voters. I've worked with Democrats. I've worked with Republicans. Democrats call me Republican. Republicans call me a Democrat. But you know what that means? That means they call me. So and they both. I mean, I've been blacklisted in many cases because of that, and so I usually end up having to work with the challengers. Sometimes there are some incumbents that will call me because they see my credibility from other campaigns, but they also see my credibility from the PR side, and understand that there are different doors and things to open, because if you really want to do it right, in my opinion, if you look at these political commercials now, they all look the same. Everyone's in slow motion. I don't mean to mock them, but I'm going to.
Please do.
And they're walking, and then at the end they do the slow look, and they smile. And that's what they do. And if you really look at them, Gavin, really look at them, you can tell. And there's one, and I'm not going to specify the candidates. But you can tell that they filmed all their commercials on the same day in front of the same church using the same classroom. And what does that show you? That shows you they were trying to be efficient, they were trying to get their message out, and they're trying to be quick and get it out the way.
Well, I definitely want to talk about the blacklisted part a little later on. I want to go back to the word you brought up, pattern. I think that's really it's a big turn off for me if I'm watching a candidate speak about what he's his issues are that he's going for. And really, I feel as though that's for all people, because the first thing when you ask people about politics, or hey, do you watch the news? They're all full of it. They're all full of it. They're all full of it, because they see a common pattern that always occurs: promises being made and promises never. Well, excuse me. They make promises that are never made. And so, for example, it's funny, two things. I was watching one of the recent presidential debates, and there's two candidates, Senator Tim Scott out of South Carolina and former Vice President Mike Pence. To me, they talk like they're on their commercial. They literally are talking like they're on a commercial, and I hate it, because at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't see the authenticity. I see, you memorize a script and you're like, just please, if you can. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm about to vomit, because it gets old. It really gets old. And then I'll go back to, you were talking about attack ads, right? Attack ads, commercials going on right now. I remember for one, I forget which campaign it was, but I think they were bringing up about taking money from your assistant living homes or something, and it showed a few people sitting down that were supposed to be like the people that lived in an assisted living home, older people. And I'm like, wait a minute, ain't one of them jokers the councilman or such and such? And in my mind, I'm like, hell sure. So in my mind, I'm like, I know he doesn't live in an assisted living home. So again, I guess attending a lot of the events, knowing, a good number of people, I'm still kind of in the newbie stage of just like, building relationships with everybody. But I start seeing that pattern, and I'm like, the pattern is a turnoff. So I do respect the fact that you said, okay, look, I want to throw people slightly off, because the worst thing that can happen is if you watch a movie or a TV show and you already know the outcome, that's not a good movie. You want to be surprised. Yeah, exactly. You want to be taken off. So in a sense, I think that's where people, or I think it will benefit now, because a lot of people are pissed. Cost of living is expensive. Jobs are not there, all available for people. There's strikes galore going from, job to job. The rich gets richer, the poor gets poor. So it's like everybody is really just sick and tired, and they're tired of seeing like everybody, going at each other. So I love when you brought up that word pattern. I also want to bring up making sure, when it comes to the campaign season, why do individuals produce these commercials that are attack ads? Like, I understand you're trying to say why vote for, like, why can't they just basically have one commercial talk about them, the candidate, right, instead of saying, okay, we're gonna make this attack ad, we gotta do it right now? Like, I mean, isn't it kind of childish, because they're grown people? Like, what's your take on that, man?
Yeah, I remember that I was working for a candidate, John Admiral, and I turned him in one of 3 races to watch. This was back in 2009, and he had a congresswoman come in from a neighboring state, I think Tennessee, and she came in and she endorsed him, and she was telling us negative campaigns work. They just do. They would. Right, and she was just saying, yeah, nobody likes them, but it's almost like people say sex sells, and people say, oh, I'm tired of seeing that stuff in the paper. But when you walk by a paper stand, do you see any more copies? Right, newspaper might be dead, but put a scandal in it.
Wow,
and it sells, and that's the sad part.
So for her to make that, or that individual to make that statement, it's almost, to a sense, you're kind of, I feel as though you're telling the people that they're dumb. Like, they don't do their own research. And I don't know why that's kind of like the response I'm feeling right now is like, oh, do it. Well, I do know that people love drama. I mean, I talk a lot on my show about ratchet reality shows. Like, the one thing that makes money, the Housewives, the Love and Hip Hop, what is the common denominator that they continue to promote? And that's fights, arguments. I mean, they have a whole streaming network called, I think, Zeus, where literally it's every single show back to back to back is fighting and all that. So they love a little drama. They love a little, that back and forth stuff. But I feel like it's just kind of sad, and maybe I'm just too corny where I'm like, can't we just all get along? Can't we just agree to disagree and just keep it moving? But we live in a different world, right? And I think we've seen now with Trump at the time being getting elected as president, like he came out with the jabs, and and it builds him up. Everything that is negative for people, from people, it builds up his credibility. Every scandal pops up, boom, points go up for him, and it's just like, it's wrong, because I'm like, damn, what are we really, what are we voting for? What is this whole process about? I want to bring up some in your opinion, like, what are some flaws for a candidate? Say, for example, you have a client that's a new challenger. What is a typical flaw that you've caught in the past from some past clients that's like, no, please don't do that, because this is gonna hurt your campaign? Have you caught any of those?
Oh yeah. Candidates who think they know. And it's good and bad, because there are a lot of good candidates who just want to talk about their ideas, which is great. That's wonderful. That's the way that it should be, but it's not. So my job is to help a candidate take their ideas and their plans and their policies
Mm-hmm.
and say them in a way that you can hear them. Because
Mm-hmm.
truthfully, you got to run your business, you got to run your podcast. You said you're married, so you got a family. You want to make
Yeah.
sure you got all of these things that you have to do.
Yeah.
So to hear how the candidate is going to bring in new jobs to the economy, yes, you want to know that,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't have time to hear it.
Mm.
Truthfully, you know what I mean? Because if you hear it, you do want to hear their plan. But if it's you know 6 o'clock in the evening and you want to get to a networking event by 7, right, and you want to get home by 8:30, do you really have time to sit and hear that? You really don't. So so I try to help them say it in a way that you can hear. And you were talking about TV shows today. So for example, like a candidate may want to share their thoughts on um, the environment.
Mm-hmm.
How they're going to clean up the water. We got a ton of water in Hampton Roads,
Yeah.
right? And everyone loves. I'll put you like this. There's an area in Newport News called the Seafood Industrial Park, and that's where they do a lot of get a lot of clams, a lot of seafood. The seafood from there, when you're going through Monitor Merrimack, you see the coal on one side and these old busted up ships on the other side. That's
Mm-hmm.
the Seafood Industrial Park. It's one of the main seafood industrial parks in the country. Anyway, that's not there. It's
Oh,
not
no,
very
no, no,
exciting.
no, no. I
See,
truly appreciate.
see, right? It's interesting to hear, but who has the time to hear about it? But
Exactly.
people want to know and hear about clean waterways,
True.
a clean environment, how you're going to bring business and industry to the area. And the
Yes.
thing is, you don't a candidate who might want to talk about how they're going to bring more of the shipping industry and boats and all that. No, you have to talk about without alienating people, because
Mm-hmm.
Democrats want to talk about clean waterways and the environment. Um, Republicans want to hear about the fishing industry, you know, and and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it all comes together. Agriculture, aquaculture. That's what a Republican might want to hear. But you're
Mm-hmm.
still
Mm-hmm.
talking about the seafood industrial park,
I got you. I got you.
and and truthfully, we're getting to the place where, and I'm guilty of it, I'm not a big fan of a lot of reality TV, but could you imagine how exciting that would be and how newsworthy that would be if a presidential candidate or a candidate running for governor were to talk about that on one of the reality shows where they're out on a raft on the beach all the
Oh
time?
yeah, no, it will definitely sell. It will definitely sell. I brought up that question because, like, for example, we're starting to see a lot of newcomers to get involved in politics. People that's never held a position a day in their life, but they said, look, something must be done. Some of them might start off on a lower scale, whether if it's school board, your city council. Some might go even broader, say, okay, look, I'm going to do House of Delegate position, representative. Some people will even go to governor and even presidency. So would you say you have a stronger chance being a person that has absolutely no experience in politics, or would you say no, it's better that you at least have a few years up your in your on your resume of being involved? Like, what would your take be on that?
It depends on two or three things. Depends on, one, what kind of race you can afford and how much time you have. And will your family support you? Not will your family tolerate you running, will your family support you? I have one candidate. He didn't have very much money. But if his family would have supported him, he has an adorable daughter.
Mm,
And both of his parents, while they're older, are very able-bodied, fully, involved. And he's got a brother that looks just like, so this could really have been a family affair, and they could really, really, go out and do some things.
mm-hmm.
Um, but sometimes families aren't always that supportive, and sometimes they don't feel
That's
like
true.
doing it, and that's fair.
That's very
But
true.
your family being involved is money.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't afford the race, then you need more time. And if you have the time to run for Congress, but again, you can't
Mm-hmm.
afford it, well, then you need to make sure you have the manpower. Because otherwise, if you have, um, I was listening to Governor Bob McDonnell. We were having a conversation. He said the main thing is you need to have the messenger,
Mm-hmm.
the money, and the message.
Mm-hmm.
And you either have the money to get the message out, or you need to have the message to get the money in. So it can go either way. Of course, it's easier if you're already rich, like Governor
Mm-hmm.
Youngkin. He was able to self-fund a lot. Donald Trump was able to self-fund a lot. If you're
Mm-hmm.
not one, Hillary Clinton, and it's not just those, Hillary Clinton, even President Obama at the time. I think he had a good chunk of money from his first book. So if you
Yeah.
have the money, you can do it. Otherwise, you need
Uh,
to make sure you have the friends and the family.
Another question I want to ask, because you bring up former Governor Bob McDonnell, who, I mean, we it's nothing, is no new news. After he was governor, kind of got into some a scandal
Sure.
basically happened, correct? And so, and he's that's long gone. He's paid his dues, all that good stuff. But would you say now, does scandals really affect politicians? Does it affect candidates? And the reason why I bring that up to want to have some laughs up here. So there's a candidate out, I believe, in the Richmond area, and her name was well, I won't say her name, but let's just say some information came out that a leaked video came out of her and her husband. Now she was a candidate running. You might know who I'm talking about. I know everybody, but and this happened pretty recent. Like, this was like, okay, the most recent video was like of last year in 2022, and it came out on the news, and I'm like, oh, they're just making up stuff. Then it was actually proof that no, it was a video that was very intimate video of her and her husband, and they would receive money from some site, whatever. But at the end of the day, she's running for office. She had everybody thinking, okay, she's and I'm not saying she's not a bad mother, but she had all these different titles set aside from her occupation as she's doing, and it's giving the people the reason why you should vote for her. Then this comes about. Now I bring that up because, to my knowledge, I believe she is still running. I don't think she stopped her campaign. And we've also there's been multiple candidates that have been involved in scandals, whether it's bribery or affairs, whatnot, and some of them have it hurt them, or some of them just said, hey, look, I still have my position in office and I got reelected. I mean, hell, what's former mayor out of DC, Marion Barry? Like, I mean, let's be honest. Like, I mean, there was a video that called him. He had his addictions. He ran again and he won. So it's like, does scandals hurt politicians at all, or does it hurt more if you're a candidate?
That's a good question.
Oh yeah, I go deep, Marcus. I go deep. I like
So I will say, first of all, about Governor Bob McDonnell. I've lived on 3 continents. Governor Bob McDonnell is one of the best, finest people I've ever met in my life. Fantastic person. He's a true gentleman. Even when the cameras are off. And I've heard countless stories from other people who know him much better than me. I only know him in terms of, a political or a charitable engagement. I mean, he was my very first client, I'm proud to say.
Wow.
But so I only know him in that capacity. But there are times when I've reached out to him about another charitable need or something going on, and he was already involved. But anyway, that's not new to him. That's just who he is. I don't think most scandals don't have the impact that they used to, because in a lot of ways, one, people got tired of them, but at the same time, depending on the scandal, we realize people, but our politicians are just like us.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. Now, granted, there are some scandals that sometimes some politicians, I think, just get lucky. and it dies down after a while.
Mm-hmm.
I won't. I'm very tempted to well,
This could be the highest rated episode,
I'm
Marcus.
gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. No, no, so for instance, um, and I won't speak on Governor Bob McDonnell's scandal outside of um, a lot of people um, don't blame him for what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they look at what happened, and then they looked and saw, and it was a very easy case to make, in the sense that um, he hadn't passed any laws or done any favor. They looked and looked and looked,
Mm-hmm.
um, and so it was just kind of like, well, there's no there, as they say in politics. So
Mm-hmm.
that kind of was that, so that I think was, because I think even at the height of the scandal, his popularity was still at 60%. Plus,
Mm-hmm.
he's just a stand-up guy.
Mm-hmm.
And you had Governor George Allen,
Mm-hmm.
who had the macaca moment,
Mm-hmm.
and whether people believe he meant that in a racist moment or not,
Mm-hmm.
it was turned into a scandal. And I
Mm-hmm.
think because you know everyone is human, everyone has a bias, and
Mm-hmm.
whether they admit it or not, whether they believe it or not, um, even if it was the case, I think
Mm-hmm.
they were like, well, we're all human. Number two, if he really didn't mean anything by it, everyone has had something taken out of context. You know what I mean?
That
Everybody. So then you had another governor where it was the issue of the photograph that was not a photograph of them, with Governor Northam, and everyone blew up, right? Even all the other politicians descended and jumped on the
mm-hmm.
bandwagon.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I can't say whether or not people let that slide, or people just got tired of it, or maybe it was
Mm-hmm.
COVID that started happening. But in either case, um, it was it didn't. One, he was obviously able to come back from that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I would like to think, at least in their cases, in all three of those cases,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what anybody thinks, I think all three of those men, because before they were governors, they were just men like
Yeah.
anybody else.
Yeah.
I think they have spent so much time doing good and being good.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean?
And
So they
I didn't mean to cut you off, Marcus. I just
no,
want to
go
say
ahead.
I highly respect that, because again, we're in a society with so much division. I mean, you mentioned former Governor George Allen and Bob McDonnell, two former Republican governors, and then we go to Ralph Northam, who was a Democratic governor. And you did not hesitate to say, no, all three of these guys, we're all men here. They made a mistake. They've apologized countless of times. It's time to over, because I do think that, and I'm just going based on what you see in mainstream medias, right, in the news. You will see so many scandals happening on, say, I'll just say on the Republican side. You'll see scandals happen with various candidates, and it's like, wow, do they ever, nothing, they still have their job, such and such and such. And now we're seeing it with the, I believe, Democratic senator out of New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken. I think he received some bribes. Yeah, Menendez, I think is his last name. And his own colleagues are saying, no, we got to get him out, because I think they're now knowing that, okay, they have to practice what they preach, because best believe if it was on the opposing side, they're going ham in ham. Vice versa, if it was a Republican candidate that received a bribe, and back and forth. But I think it's very important that I do see colleagues in their own parties standing up and saying, look, okay, this is George Santos out of New York. I think he's a congressman out of New York. I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
Like he is caught up in a lot of shit. Like he's caught up in a lot, and most likely I don't think he's going to get reelected. But again, we just don't know. But I was curious to ask that. I really don't think so. And I mean, I have a lot of family in the New York side, but we just never know. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that as a person that works in the PR, as far as representation of a candidate and of an official. Like, ooh, this might be, it's people are going to remember it, but at the end of the day,
Mhm.
people also, I do believe there are, they forgive. And at the end of the day, I mean, I haven't heard anything bad of those three individuals since, but we do live in a greedy society where we are going to be waiting for another candidate or another politician that might get caught up in something when it comes to.
Always.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's, fairly normal. But man, look, I want to talk about, because we talked a lot about on the local standpoint, and before I leave out of talking local, what other question I see? One thing I love about this show, Marcus, I always go off the top of the dome. I might have a few like little talking points that I want to hit on, but now it's like, okay, I'm trying to search what's in my mind right now before we finish this.
Well, because you actually said something that and I think you hit the nail on the head.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the well, and it was a question that you brought up earlier, when you're talking about as far as scandals. One of the things that came to mind with what you were saying, when you think about the senator from New Jersey, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the truth is, the majority of the general public don't really know him, right? And
Yes.
even though he's a elected official in New Jersey, it's a national issue because he's a U.S. senator, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you remember with Donald Trump with the comments from the bus,
Mm-hmm.
Hillary Clinton with the emails. So when
Yeah.
you look at the background that we have access to of these people, so for instance, like I said, with Governor Bob McDonnell, Georgiano, Ralph Northam, we all know, at least again in Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
they did a lot of doing good, and being good. That's what they did.
Mm-hmm.
It's what we knew. So we can fall back on that. We know Ralph Northam, whether you like him or not, is a fantastic pediatric brain surgeon. You got to be a good person to be a pediatric brain surgeon. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's many mean ones walking around, but to want to save children's lives,
I've
that's
said
a
the same thing about
fantastic
Ben
human being.
Carson, and again, I didn't vote for the guy,
Yeah.
nor was I anywhere near to his beliefs. But I'm like, this dude, like, is like the man, gifted
Yeah.
hands. Hello. Like,
Absolutely, absolutely, and with Governor George Allen, he had a long history of public service without
mm,
issue. Governor Bob McDonnell, military service, strong family man, so on and so on.
mm,
And then when you look at Donald Trump when he was just a candidate with
mm,
the bus comments, yeah, I think we were all surprised that didn't derail him completely. But really, if you think about it in concept,
mm,
we know Donald Trump at least at that point, right? We know him
mm,
from The Apprentice and being a playboy and being all of
mm.
these things. Are we surprised?
I,
No. Why? Because it reinforces what we already know and what we've
yeah,
already tolerated.
yeah,
And with Hillary and the emails, um, there's a lot of us, and I'm not saying me, but there's a lot of us, a
mm,
lot of people,
mm,
who already felt like they liked her or they couldn't trust her,
mm,
or we already associated her with whatever. To some
yes,
people, she was only the first lady and she never should have been this. Like, if it only reinforced what you already thought and felt.
gotcha,
And
absolutely right.
and with Bob Menendez, um, unfortunately, the money thing reinforces what we already thought and felt most politicians were doing anyway, which is
Exactly.
stealing money and taking bribes.
And this is not the
And
first time this happened to him, too. This is the second time.
right. So the difference is now you're proving what we were already scared about everyone is doing, but now
Yeah.
you're proving it about yourself, like you said twice. So I think it's gonna stick because it's
Mm-hmm.
reinforcing the narrative about him.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And I think too, as far as for for former President Donald Trump, he I you know, he was I don't know, he won in a time where it's like everybody wanted to see, they didn't want to see the pattern. They wanted to see a new person. They wanted to see somebody that is unfiltered. They love it. So they're like, let's try it out. I mean, let's try it out.
Yeah.
So, and they did. I want to talk. Well, I want to talk about on on the national level, but you mentioned earlier in the show about being blacklisted, and if you want to share, if you don't, I totally respect
Sure.
that. But like, when you're saying blacklisted, why do you think that occurred? To you, why do you think that's happening for you?
Oh, I was talking to a significant leader in one of the parties,
Mm-hmm.
um, and because I thought about making another run for office, and
Mm-hmm.
they said, think about the long history you have of challenging members of our party, in
Mm-hmm.
terms of my political clients before,
Mm-hmm.
and the truth is, um, I've worked with more moderates on either side than anything else, and the
Mm-hmm.
clients that I've had, most people at that time would have preferred that they won anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to other people, and the truth is, and I don't mean to sound arrogant, but it is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said this to leaders in both parties. If I lost a lot, it wouldn't be a problem anyway. Nobody would care. They would just say, "Oh, sure, that's Marcus. Who cares, right?"
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is, if you're on the opposing party, I beat your friend.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
you know, and that's what it is. So, because like I said, my first client was Governor Bob McDonnell. He hired me personally, and I'll forever
Mm-hmm.
appreciate that. And after that, I worked for a few other Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and at the local level, city council and mayor is usually
Mm-hmm.
nonpartisan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
It
because of
seems a
that,
little partisan right now. I mean, I'm in Chesapeake. I'm a
oh,
Chesapeake
it's
guy, so
yeah, oh, it's all partisan because
yeah.
Democrats show up looking for the Democratic sample ballot, Republicans show up looking for the
Mm-hmm.
Republican sample ballot,
Mm-hmm.
and so word gets around. Oh, Marcus, I've been called an opportunist. But did you
Wow.
say I was bad at my job?
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
yeah. And I ask people that. I ask them. I say. I ask them honestly. I've asked electeds. I've asked party chairs. I said,
Mm.
do people ever tell you that I'm bad at what I do? And they stop and they, no, I've never heard that. And I ask, so what's the problem? Especially so for in the case of someone like um, former Delegate Glenn Davis. Now he's the director of
Mm-hmm.
Virginia Energy. I worked with him when he ran for re-election to city council, and he was running against a member of the Tea Party. And a lot of people thought that he might lose. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"No, we're going to win by 17%. We won by 16 and a half." And but if you're a Republican, I mean, if you're a
Mm-hmm.
Democrat,
Mm-hmm.
mad that I worked with Glenn Davis way back then, would you have preferred the Tea Party guy? No. And there was no Democrat in the race. So what are you upset about? I worked with Shannon
Exactly.
Kane. Shannon Kane, we beat a Tea Party guy, and we did beat a young Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
But the young Democrat admitted he didn't have any money. He didn't really have the time to campaign. He was working full time. Democrats just wanted someone in the race. And no
Mm-hmm.
matter who you talk to, Shannon Kane as a councilwoman was extremely effective, extremely.
Mm-hmm.
By the terms of both sides of the aisle, for minority, a white woman advocating for minority businesses, small businesses, and just was effective because yes, she was great at campaigning, but she was a workhorse. That
Mm-hmm.
she
Mm-hmm.
she did the work, um, and I work one of my clients for a long time now. Commissioner of Revenue Tiffany Boyle. She's an elected Democrat.
Shout out to
Um,
Tiffany. Shout out to Tiffany.
yeah, Tiffany sometimes gets slack because of me, um, but the truth is, every time there's a Democratic race coming around, Tiffany is, right out there supporting the Democrats that she feels like represent Democratic values.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And even if you look at how she runs her political side, of course, obviously the office itself is constitutional. There's no
Mm-hmm.
politics there. But if you look at the type of outreach she does, it speaks to democratic values. Her public service announcements, translating things into Korean and Spanish and American Sign Language, those are, I don't want to say traditional because they're not,
Mm-hmm.
because no
Mm-hmm.
one really does them, but those are democratic values in terms of reaching more people. Like, um, so
I
her
get
her
so. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
Oh, no. Continue, man.
Well, no, but that kind of stuff, and the statewide food drive that she does. I'm not saying that Republicans don't do that, because actually a Republican commissioner of revenue this year won the food drive. So again, shout out to Victoria Profit, commissioner of revenue of Chesapeake. But it's people with it's universal. People in general have short attention spans, so they
Mm-hmm.
look at the surface stuff, and they look at who I worked with, um, and in some cases, yes, I beat their friends, or if I didn't win, I shaped the outcome of the race. And there's a lot of people that don't like that, and
Mm-hmm.
you're not supposed to like it. It's politics. Um, but I'm very fortunate that, especially for a lot of my clients, I'm able to make calls on both sides of the aisle. I've emailed former Congresswoman Elaine Luria or Scott Taylor before, and
Mm-hmm.
Governor Bob McDonnell, or this mayor, that mayor, this council person, and usually they'll come out to my client events. Why? Because they know that I
Well,
business
that just
wise,
shows,
I'm going to work
Marcus.
in
Yeah,
nonpartisan fashion.
yeah, that just shows the kind of class act guy you are, Marcus. Because again, hearing you say this always just pisses me off because, again, reality is reality. Really, everybody needs to understand that majority, like I forgot which the actual percentage that they brought up, but they said like 64% of Americans are really independent voters. Like, really, if we bring up
Yes.
all the issues that happen, we agree on majority the same stuff. We just happen to
Yeah.
find one or two things that makes the whole reason why you choose to lean on this end or that end. Because I can't stand, you know, far right wing individual or far left wing, because at the end of the day, that
Yeah.
tells me that you cannot compromise or at least work together. Because at the end of the day, I was just always that guy. I respect others' opinions. You don't have to like
Yeah.
it, but please respect my opinion because it's my opinion. I'm not forcing you. One of my best friends, I consider my brother, conservative, voted for Trump. I don't disown that guy. No, that was it.
Right.
We don't like the same football team either. So it's like what else do you do? But I feel as though, like, right now the world is really trying to continue to divide everybody based on those beliefs. I think of course when you look at news platforms, I know News Nation is promoting unbiased news, which is I believe is a smart. I consider watch. I see you moving your head around like, all right, let's see how long that's gonna last. But but I watch a little more of them. I think I spoke with my friend of mine. I'm like, yeah, I watch News Nation, MSNBC, CNN, Fox. I mean, I watch them all. Newsmax, I watch them all. I just as a guy that's enjoys civil discourse and the news, I watch them all. The ones that I don't agree with at all, the ones I do agree with, and vice versa. So I think that's where everybody should lean more towards, so it would stop causing so much tension. And I think news networks now realize that, because CNN has been hurting right now in ratings, and they're trying to lean more on the middle ground, kind of like the unbiased side, but it hurt them again because they I think before kind of leaned a little more towards left, which at the end of the day, we live in a universal society, like you said. Everybody here has difference of opinions, and it's okay to do that. So Marcus, so excited to have this conversation with you. Before we go, I just want to get your thoughts on the presidential election, because we spoke a little more on the local standpoint, but on the presidential election, have you been checking out any of the debates, the last two debates at all?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit.
Any candidates on because right now they're just Republican candidates. Well, I mean, we have two on the Democratic side, and RFK Jr. and I think Marion Williamson, who's very more progressive, and then we also have Cornel West. He's on the Green Party candidate. So out of those candidates, man, anybody that you think that's even anywhere near being a great person in office, just now I'm not speaking as a PR person, I'll ask a PR question, but I'm asking as just a voter, as just a citizen, like anybody that has been catching your attention at all.
No, unfortunately.
Darn it,
And
I
I
thought I could
want,
get out of here.
yeah, no. I mean, just as a voter,
Mm-hmm.
um, and taking the PR and politics background out of it, um, I want to like Mike Pence. I want
Mm-hmm.
to,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't. I don't think I could. Um, Chris Christie. Chris Christie could do. He would be a decent president.
Mm-hmm.
Um, probably a little bit better than decent. Um, but I mean, if I had to go with the current crop of Republicans, probably say probably Chris Christie. I think I like the governor from South Dakota. I like his background.
Burgum, I think his name is Burgum.
Yeah,
Burgum.
yeah.
You
Burgum.
know what? So what's your thoughts on Nikki Haley? Now I'm saying this because after seeing the two debates, I think she's been very strong in those debates. So that's why I can, brought up her name, Nikki Haley.
Right. I do like Nikki Haley.
Mm-hmm.
She kind of again, taking my PR political standpoint out of it, I think I heard something really a bit off-putting about the retirement age, that she was advocating for. I think she wanted to raise it to something that was a
like,
bit much.
Now I gave her her props. I gave her props as far as talking about term limits. Again, I keep on popping up with questions, even though I'm like, okay, we're gonna end this conversation, but more questions keep on coming at me. Term limits. Do you believe in term limits in all political positions? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think she was the first candidate. I don't know if she's the only, but I know she was the first to definitely bring that up, because again, we just lost a long-serving senator out of California in Dianne Feinstein, 90 years old, and I'm sorry, no one should be holding that position. At my limit is 70 years old. As far as like, if I want to see somebody in politics, stop at 70. Stop when you're, not saying you have to stop when saying all 70-year-olds are like not sharp at the mind or agile, but I just think that that's an age where it's like, okay, look, be of a mentor to the next person and help them, through that process, instead of just holding on to that long. I don't like that, because I think I heard about Nancy Pelosi running for a re-election. I'm like, Nancy, you're 83. Like and that's what makes it, I think, the presidential election so hard, because you keep on talking about Biden's age, but let's be honest, Trump is 3 years younger than him. He's also old. Nobody wants to see a repeat, which most likely it looks like that based on poll numbers. You have on the Democratic side, RFK. What's holding him back against majority of Democratic voters is the anti-vax, stuff that he's always been talking about. Marianne Williamson is, very progressive. Not everybody's a fan of progressive politics. And I'm just saying that based on, what I overhear in conversations, and just, how look at the past presidents who have been who have been pretty progressive presidents, right? I'm a big fan of Cornel West. Again, Cornel West is in his early 70s. So he's sharp as hell. He's not scared. He talks bad about both sides and the issues what's going on. So I would like to see him on the debate stage. Christie is sharp. I think Christie's there just to kind of mouth off to Trump, but Trump's not getting on the debate stage anytime soon. So we will see that. But now I'll ask from the PR standpoint, who is playing their cards right and who is playing their cards wrong? And I'm just talking about all candidates that I just named. Who is playing their cards right as far as what their campaign strategy that they're doing?
Glenn Youngkin. He's playing his cards right. I'm going to predict.
That's juicy. That was juicy right there.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying, when the first time I read an article about Glenn Youngkin running for governor, I knew he was going to win.
Mm-hmm.
And I would even say Yeah, I'm definitely predicting he's going to run for president,
Shit.
especially if Republicans win the House of Delegates and the state Senate. He's definitely going to run. Um, so I would say he probably announces before Thanksgiving or between Thanksgiving and Christmas. But I think he runs. I think he wins. And Glenn Youngkin is fantastic at running his own race. Everyone says, I'm going to run my own race. Glenn Youngkin really does it. And the way I knew Glenn Youngkin was going to win, one, I knew Democrats were going to nominate Terry McAuliffe. Yeah, I get why they did it, but what they did was, so Glenn Youngkin's background in business with the Carlyle Group is to analyze patterns, right? To look at the money, right? See where it's going, see what, to see what's good, what's wrong, what's broken, what needs to be fixed, how to break. That's what he does. He's a strategist in that capacity, right? So, and he analyzes all of that. So while Glenn Youngkin is analyzing the patterns, what Democrats did with Terry McAuliffe is give Glenn Youngkin 20 or 30 years of political patterns to see where he raised his money, where he spent his money, where he was strong at, what he was going to do. All you did was give this man something that's in his wheelhouse to analyze and break apart.
Well, and I also, I say this because I spoke with a lot of my Democratic friends. They weren't fans of Terry McAuliffe. I'll just be honest. Terry McAuliffe was not the people's candidate. There were two other candidates people would love to see. Actually, one of those candidates, her sister is a close family friend of ours, very good friends. But I was not satisfied as far as with the way they were working. Not they, but as far as how he was working his campaign. Because one thing I caught between the two when I watched, I think, one of their debates, and one thing I noticed that Youngkin never brought up Trump's name, nor did he ever want Trump to help him with his race. McAuliffe brought Trump's name a lot, and I feel as though it's like whenever you bring a person that's nowhere around, when you keep on bringing, it gets annoying because once again it goes back to that word you brought up earlier in the show, patterns. People get tired of that pattern, and that, as well as, again, not everybody, he was not everybody's choice of Democratic candidate. There were two others that, between two and three others. Like, he really wasn't their fan favorite, and he served before. So if you wanted a new face, you always have to look at that as, okay, somebody's looking for new blood. But I'll ask you, Marcus, because that's a pretty big statement. That's news. That's breaking news here on the show that your choice on him. But do you think it's like too soon? Because I mean, has it been a full term for him as governor?
No, it's only been about 2 years, but I mean,
well, not too soon, but it's so quick, so quickly, like.
Yeah, well, so there are a lot of people that are going to say that, but then there's also people that say, well, with Joe Biden, it's been too long, he will have more government experience than President Trump did, so that's not an issue there. He'll have, and I don't think, I think there are other presidents who have interrupted their terms, to run, whether it was Senate or governor or so on and so forth. So I don't think that will affect him too terribly. There will be people who don't like it, but I don't think it'll affect him too terribly. But yeah, I think when Youngkin gets in, I think his running mate, this is a dangerous prediction. I think the running mate is going to be Joni Ernst from Iowa.
Okay,
or what I would love to see. I doubt it, but what I would love to see is Glenn Youngkin and Tulsi Gabbard and do a cross party ticket.
It could, it could happen because that's not the first time I heard that. That's okay.
Yeah,
I could,
but I think Glenn Youngkin and Joni Ernst from Iowa.
Okay. Marcus, man, I could talk to you for hours, man. This is really, I'm having a blast having you, man, on the show, and you're always invited, boss. Always invited. I definitely want to. You made that statement about current Governor Youngkin, running. I want to bring it on because if that happens, I'm bringing you back on the show, and we got to.
It's gonna happen.
That man said it's gonna happen, y'all. Y'all heard it here. It's gonna happen. Look, Marcus, how can people continue to follow you or and support? Please give us your socials. How can people stay afloat and get in contact with you?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, on Facebook, just go to Image Capital Group. On Instagram, if you type that in, I'll still come up. But my Instagram is Marcus Does PR, and I'm not on Twitter. No, I'm on Twitter or X, but I don't post as much there as I should. So,
Gotcha.
but definitely Facebook or Instagram. Yeah, and if I can ever, my whole thing. If anyone ever wants to be a client, my only goal with clients is that you got to be trying to do something different. You got to be trying, whether it's making a change or an impact or influence your community, your industry, politics, whatever. I just don't do well with people who just want to be seen for the sake of being seen, and that's there's nothing wrong with people like that. It just doesn't. I'll be honest, it's just not a good fit. So if someone's trying to have some impact, have some influence, then I want to be a part of that.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And also a quick question, Marcus. Your clients, are they strictly are they local? Do you go, do you have clients that are based out of town, just in case if people want to, definitely work with you?
Oh no, my clients can be from anywhere. Most of my clients are obviously are from Virginia throughout. I have one client in Maine, one client in Newport News. But I've had clients from Houston, Texas. I represented the Texas JCs there. Promise Keepers, which is a national ministry. And even if someone is trying to break into the Virginia media market or break out of the Virginia media market, I've done that too.
Awesome. Well, Marcus, look, I truly appreciate it. Look, y'all, I'm going to talk a little more with Marcus after this show, man. But Marcus, we truly thank you again, taking the time out your busy schedule.
Thank you for having me.
Truly appreciate it, man. Take care, man. Look, guys, what an awesome conversation again. I hope I'm giving y'all all that great information, because like I said, we want to have fun here, but we want to keep it fun, refreshing, and informative. I'm big on keeping y'all informed. Y'all meaning our young people, y'all meaning people 20 and under, 20 and over, everybody. I want to keep y'all informed and still have a good time while doing it. Look, this is just our second guest with our series. Again, it's election season, so I'm trying to bring in a few of my good friends that have different positions in the political field of things. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation. And look, Marcus, man, Marcus is a sharp dude, very sharp guy. You heard that statement. He said Youngkin will run for president, and guess what? And he's gonna win. Whew. Look, toasty, man. I felt like taking a shot of whiskey when he said that. I'm like, wait a minute, what? But again, y'all, I hope y'all enjoyed. Be sure to tune in to new episodes of the Arrington Gavin podcast again every Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time via podcast, wherever you get your podcast from. Also, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time via YouTube, our YouTube channel, R Smooth Club Media, the letter R Smooth Club Media. Subscribe, hit the like, comment. I truly appreciate it. Excuse me. I had to clear my throat. Also, tune in every Sundays to my weekly radio show in your city on WNSP Hot 91.1 FM, the soul of VA. And look, no worries. If you're not in the Hampton Roads area and you can't find us on that radio dial, no worries. You can listen to us live online at WNSP.org, and also download the free app, the WNSP app, so you can tune in all the times, every Sundays at 12 p.m., hosted by yours truly, as well as my co-host, hustle queen herself, Miss Michelle Young, and comedian Ciroc Fox. Y'all take care. Be blessed. Have an amazing weekend, and I'll talk to y'all again on Monday. I'm out.